truth be told, Joshua Mqabuko Nkomo remains the most popular politician, not only in Matabeleland but also in Zimbabwe. His legacy, arouses mixed reactions, especially from sober-minded individuals like me. As much as I realize his efforts, but also I think he could have done some of the things, or he could have handled politically some of the issues better. But anyway, it is what it is at the moment. So Joshua Mqabuko Nkomo is the former vice president of Zimbabwe, and also is the former leader of the vibrant ZAPU. And we know that before there was ZANU, there was ZAPU. All these Robert Gabriel Mugabe and everybody, initially they were part of ZAPU, and they decided to disintegrate, or they decided to rebel against ZAPU, and they formulated ZANU-PF. And those who knows the history, not a distorted history, they will tell you the political party that freed Zimbabwe today, it is none other than ZAPU. The political party that had numerous properties, had heavily invested in Zimbabwe, it was ZAPU. That is why it had brought a lot of properties in Zimbabwe. Most of these properties have been taken by ZANU-PF. There was a promise by Mnangagwa to return those properties, but up to today, those properties have not been retained to ZAPU. I understand also the building that is used by the Central Intelligence Organization in Zimbabwe, specifically in Bulawayo, that building belonged to ZAPU. They are quite good and magnificent properties that belonged to ZAPU. So someone who bought properties for his own political party, you can tell that that leader was a nation builder. He had a vision. Somehow, maybe if he became the president of Zimbabwe, we could have actually had a totally different. Maybe he was going to be the Mandela of Zimbabwe, but because he was denied that opportunity, we had Mugabe. And I think I don't have to speak about what Mugabe has done, as well as your Mnangagwas and others maybe that may follow. As long as we are led by ZANU-PF, Zimbabwe would be a laughing stock. Thank you very much for watching us. If you're watching us for the very first time, please do remember to press the red or black subscribe button, so that next time when we be live, you become the very first one to watch us. So today we remember the late Joshua Mqabuko Nkomo. He was called Chipwe Chiteza. Some they called him Umdalawetu. He had numerous names, and a lot of people had hopes that if that man could have landed, because of the statements and the utterances that actually attested to this man. You can tell that he was a great visionary, and he had actually better dreams of Zimbabwe than what ZANU-PF doing in Zimbabwe. But there are a lot of political miscalculations that he made today. That is why, most probably, that is why we have got your Mnangagwas, we've got your Mugabe, we've got almost a ZANU-PF that wants to create a one-party state. It is because of the loopholes of Joshua Mqabuko Nkomo. It is true. This is true history. Robert Gabriel Mugabe is the product of Joshua Mqabuko Nkomo. He was once the secretary of Joshua Mqabuko Nkomo. These Mnangagwas, they were the products of ZIPRA, ZANU, not ZIPRA, ZAPU. All these ZANU-PF politicians, they were the product of ZAPU. Because of tribalism, they created ZANU-PF. ZANU-PF, a party that was created out of anger. That is why when they tested power, and by the way, they were so smart to work with our former colonizers. and unfortunately Joshua Mqabuko Nkomo was working with Russia, and Robert Gabriel Mugabe was working for our former colonizers, the British. That is why they had decided to hand over. In fact, it is known the 1980 elections were won by far by Joshua Mqabuko Nkomo, in spite of violence that ZANU-PF had unleashed and the political disorder that ZANU-PF had unleashed in Matabeleland as well as also in Mashonaland. People's houses in Mashonaland and both in Matabeleland were burnt down, especially those perceived to be supporting ZAPU. And we know elections were rigged from 1980, and in this case Mugabe was assisted by the British to actually land into power, hoping that Nkomo was not preferred because Nkomo was a communist. He supported communism, he spoke and preached communism, socialism. Robert Gabriel Mugabe was speaking socialism to the people, but to the West he was actually taking capitalism. That is why they trusted him. That is why during the Lancaster House negotiations, part of the agreements that were made was that, especially the issue of land reform, it was willing buyer, willing seller, and they made an arrangement just like South Africa that it was going to be reviewed after a certain period of years. But Robert Gabriel Mugabe had actually promised the British that he would never touch land, he would never touch them. Land will remain in their hands. But we know what actually transpired. So today we remember Joshua Mqabuko Nkomo. Individuals like Mnangagwa claim they are doing what Joshua Mqabuko Nkomo had actually envisioned. Obviously, they are being opportunistic about it. Joshua Mqabuko Nkomo could not have done this mediocre that is done by Emmerson Mnangagwa. Of course, he is actually blamed by a lot of people for failing to protect the people of Matabeleland during the Kukuraonde genocide, though he had one of the strongest military, not only in Zimbabwe, but on the African continent. That is Zebra. He also, a lot of people have blamed him for even signing the so-called Unity Accord document, which was a surrender document to ZANU-PF, and making sure that the former ZAPU members were going to be the third class citizens within the political dynamics of ZANU-PF. There are a lot of miscalculations that he made. There were speeches that he made that are used by ZANU-PF today to manipulate the people of ZANU-PF, of which he could have been sensitive. Thank you very much for watching us. If you are watching us for the very first time, please do remember to press the red or black subscribe button so that next time when we beam live, you become the very first one to watch us. You can financially support this channel by pressing the join button and be part of our members who are the heartbeat of this channel. You can equally do so by pressing the thanks button. Stars,